Welcome to our podcast show. We will be face to face with a historical figure from beyond the veil. Tonight we're uncovering how our guest became a turning point in the human story. For the next 10 minutes, we will reflect on the Echo's history. He was not born a monster. He was born a man, one who painted postcards in Vienna. His name is Adolf Hitler, and though history has condemned him, we must still confront him not to understand, but to dismantle. What is power without conscience? Vision without mercy? Legacy without truth? These are not questions for him alone. They are questions for us all. Here is a timeline of the main events in Adolf Hitler's life. We will turn the pages of history and invite our guest to the podcast studio. Here is the first question from our podcast audience. Adolf Hitler, you step onto this stage not as a guest, but as a question that history still struggles to answer. Before us stands the architect of ruin, the voice behind the silence of millions. Today, we do not seek your charm, your rhetoric, or your myth. We seek truth. History has called you many things, but I want to understand the man behind the figure. Let's begin at the beginning. Where did your hatred of Jews come from?
It began in Vienna. I was poor. I had failed as an artist. I looked around and saw others succeeding where I did not. I convinced myself that the Jews had an undue influence in finance, in the arts, in society.
You built an ideology of racial purity, yet you allied with nations you yourself called inferior. How did you justify that?
Politics is not pure. Ideals bend to necessity. I told myself those alliances were temporary, that destiny would correct the contradictions. But yes, sometimes it troubled me. I wondered if I was betraying the very creed I demanded others sacrifice everything for.
Your speeches moved millions. Did you truly believe every word, or were you performing?
I told myself it was necessary, that it was a historical duty. I did not think of individuals, only of a sickness to be cured. So I hardened myself. That was the only way.
You often invoked God, providence. How did you reconcile your actions with morality?
I believed I was chosen to do God's work, but sometimes I feared I had simply made a God in my own image, a God of iron and fire. Was it truly providence, or was it only my own voice echoing back to me? I will never know.
When did you realize the war was lost?
Stalingrad. That was the moment. But I could not admit it to myself or to anyone. To surrender would have been to confess that millions had died for nothing. That thought was unbearable, so I chose destruction instead, better flames than shame.
History calls you a monster. How do you see yourself?
I never saw myself as a monster. I believed I was serving history, serving my people. Yet sometimes I wondered if I was driven less by destiny and more by fear. Fear of insignificance, of being nothing. Perhaps that fear drove me more than I ever admitted.
Your regime thrived on propaganda. Did you ever worry that future generations would see through the lies?
What you call lies, I called education. But yes, at times even I lost track. I began to live inside the myths I created. Was I deceiving the people, or was I deceiving myself? Perhaps both.
Today, your name is remembered as the embodiment of evil. How do you respond to that?
The victors write history, that is true. But even so, when I hear that children now learn my name as a symbol of evil, there is a sting. I wanted to be remembered as a savior. Instead, I am remembered as a curse. That was not how I imagined my legacy.
You claim to serve the destiny of a nation. Was it destiny or delusion that guided your hand?
Destiny is not a dream, it is a duty. Germany was betrayed in 1918, stabbed in the back by traitors. I rose to fulfill the will of the folk, to restore what was stolen.
Is power justified by vision, or must vision be judged by its cost?
The greatness of a vision is proven by its triumph. Weak nations count costs, strong ones shape history. The sacrifices of war and struggle are the price of rebirth. Germany had to bleed to rise.
Would you still speak of greatness if your victims could answer you?
The Jews, the Russians, they were obstacles to Germany's destiny. History does not ask permission.
If history is your judge, what plea would you offer not to absolve, but to explain?
I acted for Germany. I gave voice to its pain, direction to its despair. Let history say I dared where others faltered. I do not seek absolution. I demand recognition.
You certainly left a mark and a trail of blood and death and destruction. Your time is up.
I rewrote history because I had the guts to. Your opinion and your audience's is beneath my concern.
We do not interrogate monsters to understand them. We interrogate them to understand ourselves, to see how myth becomes mandate, how silence becomes complicity, and how, in the end, even the most towering tyrant is reduced to dust, judged not by his dreams, but by his deeds. We interrogate the past not to commune with its ghosts, but to confront the silence they leave behind. In the shadow of tyranny, every question becomes a mirror reflecting not only the crimes of one man, but the complicity of millions, the fragility of truth, and the peril of forgetting. This is not closure. It is a summons to remember, to resist, to rebuild, to prevent another dark chapter in our history. Thank you for joining us. Until next time, keep seeking truth, keep seeking light, and peace be with you. Our podcast continues beyond this moment. Shall we turn the next page together?